So in the age of AI, it is no shocker that we're starting to see a pretty big impact on things like articles or blog posts, particularly in how they relate to SEO and using those to get traction for your website, for social media platforms, or for growing your email newsletter or your email list. That being said, one of the most challenging things that I have noticed with a lot of online course creators is picking a topic. Now you might think that sounds pretty easy. Maybe you're a photographer, so my topic is photography. Or maybe you're a graphic designer, so my topic is graphic design. The problem is that it's no secret that online courses are a powerful way to earn a living online, and so that means that there are a ton of online courses out there. So what I want to do in this video is actually break down for you how you can get very specific. You can focus in on a particular niche in the type of industry that you're trying to create an online course for. If you don't even have an idea yet for an online course, this is a great video to help you hone in on something that you could begin to pursue for a potential online course. Okay, so without wasting any further time, let's dive right in. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to identify your strengths or your skills. Right? So if you are currently working a job and that job is very heavy in a particular area of expertise, maybe you're an accountant or a bookkeeper, or maybe you do video editing, or you're a writer, or you're an editor, or, pick whatever it is that you have a lot of experience in, right? So this is kind of the starting point. We want to determine, like I mentioned earlier, if you're a photographer, your expertise is in photography. However, what we want to do is we want to kind of branch into what is the specific niche or area that you are really, really good at in terms of photography, using that as our example. Are you a wedding photographer? Right? You do corporate events. You do all of these things, right? Or maybe there's just a particular area of interest that you have. So maybe you just really like doing wedding photography, or maybe you really like doing portraits. If that's the case, you can kind of balance off which of these do I have the most interest in, and or which of these do I have the most to share in terms of value. If you're not quite sure on this and you already have a platform, so maybe you do a lot of posting on X or TikTok or Instagram, or maybe just a lot of IRL things. So in real life, you're booking photo shoots or your graphic design work for clients or whatever that is. If you are talking to people and you have them coming up to you and asking you specific questions related to your expertise, that is a pretty good indicator that maybe that's the area you should go into for your online course. So for example, if you are an accountant and somebody is constantly asking you about a specific tax form, maybe that's one. If you're a hairstylist and they're asking you to recommend a particular product, maybe that's another one, right? So just kind of look for patterns that you see with people who are asking you questions in your area of expertise. Once you've kind of got a general idea of your area of expertise and what it is that you want to create an online course around, again, it could be, like I said, photography, videography, being a hairstylist, an accountant, video editor, whatever that is. The next thing that you want to do is you want to do a little bit of research, diving into the level of interest of that particular niche. I'm going to keep coming back to this because it's a pretty good kind of balanced example, and that would be wedding photography. So what you would want to do is start taking a little bit of time to dive into, of course, you want to start with something like Google, do a quick, Google search, maybe even just start with your area of wedding photographers or wedding photography courses, and just get an idea of the landscape, what already exists. Beyond that, you can start to search a number of online forums, so for up-to-date live conversations that are currently taking place, and then also things like Reddit. You can just do a quick search right there in Reddit you can find subreddits for wedding photography or whatever your niche is. And what you want to start looking for in this stage of validating your topic or your idea is what pain points are people running into? What is it specifically, right? So if you're doing wedding photography, again, maybe it's just really difficult to coordinate the mother-in-law, or maybe it's very difficult to get the bride's attention because she's so focused on all these different things going on. What are those pain points that people keep running into over and over again? And then cross-reference that with the online courses that you are finding. So you can search on places like Udemy or Skillshare, or places that just have a lot of online course content. And if you're not seeing that particular problem that people are voicing in these online forums, that might be the perfect topic or niche to hone in on for your online course. Okay, so once you've gathered a lot of this information, I would recommend just kind of put this in a Google Doc or some place where you can reference it later as you're kind of working out what your specific topic is going to be. What you want to do is you want to niche down as much as you can. Now, there's a balance here, right? Because we don't want to niche down too far, right? So maybe I don't really want to create an online course that's for photographers, for weddings, just for the bride, right? Because maybe that's so narrow that it doesn't necessarily warrant an entire course, right? So maybe that's just too little information, or it's so narrow and so obscure that nobody's going to be willing to buy it. But if you have enough content that's going to enable you to create a course that's 3 or 4 videos or longer, then that would start to signify to you that, okay, I can provide enough value in this course, enough transformation for me to actually begin to pursue this as an online course topic. But what I would like to caution you against is being too generic. Usually when I've seen a lot of online courses and a lot of online course creators, they're usually too generic, right? So they'll just, here's my wedding photography masterclass. It's like, okay, there's gonna be a lot of those out there. And unless there's something about your wedding photography or you as a wedding photographer that lends some extra credibility your way, unless you have that, it's going to be very difficult to break through in that market. But again, if you've got something about wedding photography that you do differently, maybe it's your style, maybe you're more loose or you're more casual or more fun, or there's something that you're capturing through the process of wedding photography that a lot of wedding photographers would want to know, then that's when you're starting to break into a particular niche that might be highly valuable to other people and would be a good topic for an online course. The other thing I would like to encourage you to do as well as you're coming up with your topic is to make sure that you are very clear and that you are only specifying one skill, one transformation, and one end result, right? So again, I keep coming back to the wedding photographer example, but that would be, okay, so photography would be the skill, the transformation would be getting better at this particular style of doing wedding photography, and the end result would be something like booking more weddings, right? Because that end result will directly provide the person who is taking the course with monetary value. The idea is that really for a lot of online courses, and I know we've all heard this a million times, but in reality, it should pay for itself. The other important point when it comes to picking a topic is to be very sure that it solves some sort of pain point, right? And so again, I keep coming back to the wedding photographer example, but maybe it's just very difficult to deal with brides, or maybe it's very difficult to deal with mother-in-laws or whoever it is, or maybe it's very difficult to deal with and position wedding guests, right? Or maybe you're just really, really shy, and so it's really difficult for you to be commanding when you need somebody to position or move or to pose in a particular way to get the shots that you need. And so maybe it's a class specific to that. That's a pain point. That's something that a photographer who wants to do weddings might find is a genuine roadblock to successfully fulfilling their client's request, right? So find that specific pain point and highlight that as a part of your topic. You might even include that in the title of your class, whatever works best, but you want to make sure that you're very clear what is at least one specific pain point that I'm going to solve with this particular course. Now, another thing that I don't really see a lot of people doing out there is testing before you build. And that's something that I find super important when it comes to validating any type of content, right? Or any type of product, really. And an online course is exactly that. It's a product, right? And so what you want to be able to determine without going through all the work of writing out scripts or bullet points and then shooting all the videos, you want to make sure that you come to a point where you feel at least fairly confident that what it is you want to create will actually get bought, that there's actually a marketplace for this particular course topic. Now, this will change pretty dramatically based upon whether or not you already have an audience. If you already have a pretty decent following on really any social media platform, this will come a lot easier for you, particularly if your audience is following you for the particular niche that we talked about earlier. Again, if you are a wedding photographer and a lot of wedding photographers follow you, it's going to be a lot easier for you. However, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily stuck. And so the first thing that you can try is you can actually create a shorter, more condensed, but valuable version of your video or of your course in a single video format and upload that to YouTube. This is great because with YouTube's algorithm, they're a lot more likely to recommend content. Even if you have 0 followers on your channel, or even if you're starting a new channel, if you make that video genuinely valuable, then it will get views and YouTube will put it in front of people who want to see it. So even if you're starting at 0, that's a good way to start. Now, one of the ways that you can gauge that video is its engagement. So how many likes, how many views does it get? If it gets like 15 views, okay, well, so maybe that topic isn't resonating, or maybe it's the thumbnail, or maybe it's the headline, or the name of the actual video, or the promise isn't quite clear enough. But that's a great place for you to start. Another option, if you have a little bit of an audience to work with, is to try a live workshop or a webinar, right? And so this is actually a very powerful way to start to get some insight into how your topic is being received in real time. And so what you can do is you can do maybe a 30-minute to an hour-long workshop where you go through your course content and you teach it. And you ask for feedback along the way. What do you think about this? Is this particular problem something that you're experiencing? Or better yet, can you guys in chat please just type me out a sentence? What's the most obnoxious thing that you encounter when you're doing weddings for your photography? And you're probably going to get a massive list, and that massive list, you copy and paste that into a Word document, and you've got yourself some bullet points to hit for individual lessons for your course. Beyond that, like I said, this is a great way, based upon how much engagement you get, how many people sign up for the webinar, how many people participate in the webinar. This is going to give you a great indicator as to how much interest there is. Also, just kind of a side note, one of the things I don't really like personally about webinars is how they've been around for a long time and they've been used primarily as a sales tool, which means that at the very end of them, there is always a pitch. There's always a sales call. There's always a, well, this is a great free sample, so if you liked this, then you'll love my course. Not to say it's wrong to do that, it's just been a little bit overdone. So if you can do a webinar that just in and of itself is super valuable and has no pitch at the end, I think people are really going to appreciate that. Now, the third way to test before you build will, of course, require an audience. And in my personal opinion, it is the best way to validate a course, and that is to accept pre-sales. So there's a dozen different ways you could do this. You could do a video that tells people what your course is going to be about. You could just send out a single email, and you could just drive traffic to a specific landing page that has copy detailing what it is that you're going to offer in your course. This is a great way, this is probably the best way to actually verify whether or not people are actually going to buy your course, right? Because in my first example, a YouTube video is good. You can judge through likes and views. The second option, the webinar, is good because you can get live feedback. But the third validates it in a way better than any other, because people can watch YouTube videos and like them, and they can also sign up for free webinars, and that doesn't necessarily guarantee that they're going to give you money, right? So if somebody signs up for your course, if they sign up for a pre-sale, right, if they actually give you money for something you haven't built yet, there is no better indicator as to whether or not there is interest, right? And so this could be a situation where maybe you're going to charge $500 for your course, right? But you offer it for a pre-sale of like $250 or some sort of discount or something, so that those people get the course like 1 week before it officially launches and they get a massive discount. Or maybe you throw in a bunch of bonuses, or maybe a free live chat with you over Zoom or something like that. There are a lot of ways to incentivize this, and there's a lot of tactics which we can probably talk about in another video. But the core piece is that there's a lot of things that people will do in terms of signing up for an email newsletter or watching and liking a YouTube video. But if they actually give you money, then that's a pretty good indicator that more people are probably going to be willing to actually pay for the content that you're providing through this course. The last thing that I wanted to recommend in terms of picking your topic, and this is once you've kind of honed in on generally what it is that you're actually going to be including in this course, you want to make sure that you are packaging it to sell. And what I mean by that is you want to make sure that it is very benefit driven. It's got to be very clear and benefit driven, that there is a promise at the end of the road when somebody completes this course. It is a personal pet peeve of mine when people just pack a video course with 58 videos and 375 worksheets and 28 quizzes, and those things are not of value, right? What is of value is how you start the course and how you end the course, and that there is a dramatic difference between those 2 points, right? So again, going back to our wedding photographer, we want it to be something like get your first 10 clients in 30 days, right? Something crazy like that. And you want it to be verifiable. You want it to be possible. You want it to be something that you yourself have achieved. But something promise-driven, benefit-driven is going to be far more attractive to people, especially if they don't know who you are yet, or if they're a part of your audience and they haven't paid you for anything yet. The key is that however you decide to package this course, you just want to make the transformation and the value clear and obvious. This is going to allow you to charge more for this. You're gonna be able to charge for what it's worth, what that transformation actually means to someone, as opposed to all of the stuff that's getting packed into it. Again, quizzes and worksheets and busy work and all of these things that are just supposed to make it feel like it's worth more. It isn't those things that make a course valuable. It's the change that you bring into someone's life or into their business. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to share with you some of the fundamentals that I have learned throughout the years, particularly when it comes to coming up with and refining and defining a particular topic for your online course. So I have myself created an online course platform by the name of TeachKit. You can find that over at teachkit.co. It is just meant to make it super easy and fun for teachers to teach and for students to learn. So again, if you'd like to check that out, you can find it at teachkit.co. If you found this video interesting or useful, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.